Good evening, everyone. This is John Wilson, National Spokesman for the Freedom Union of Australia. In tonight's upload, we're going to talk about a very interesting proposition which gives us, the Freedom Union of Australia and its members, it gives us a lawful right under international law to withhold tax and any form of funding to this belligerent occupation, to this GovCorp. Now, tonight I'm joined by my great colleague Jason, who has dedicated a large slice of his life in studying international law, and we're going to have a talk about this. First of all, let me just refresh your memory. When looking to set up the Freedom Union of Australia, I had to look as to what jurisdiction, what type of infrastructure I'd need to be able to go ahead and establish the union. I.e., do I try and register it under GovCorp? Do I look at other jurisdictions? Now, the only one that stood out was international law. Under international law was the freedom of association, which we've spoke earlier about in an earlier upload, where it allowed and expressly allowed right for Australians to form a union of their choice, unhindered and uninterrupted by government. Okay. Now, after that, after setting up the Freedom Union of Australia, I then had to embark on a process of looking at what our obligations were as trade unionists, new trade unionists, and what our rights were under international law. And that's where a very interesting discovery was made. You see, ladies and gentlemen, in early March of this year, 2024, the relationship between the Australian people and this GovCorp, right, this belligerent occupation, changed dramatically. Our relationship changed. And I want to tell you why. A very respected national Australian law firm, in league with many other law practitioners, put together a complaint to be prosecuted before the International Criminal Court, and have named Anthony Albanese and others in the Australian body politic, named them and are prosecuting them before the ICC for war crimes. Yes, that's right. You heard it, for war crimes. Now, those war crimes relate to what is unfolding and has unfolded in Palestine, in the Gaza, and Israel. Okay, I'm not going to go into any of the graphics and details, but everyone out there knows that there has been and continues to be war crimes committed over there, and Australia is now named and is being prosecuted before the International Criminal Court. Now, because of that fact, that has dramatically changed our relationship with this belligerent occupation, and I want to go into why. For you see, under international law, and we'll explore this in just a minute with my colleague Jason, under international law, it prohibits you and I, ordinary Australians, from supporting this belligerent occupation in any way, shape or form, including funding them through taxation or any other means, right, in their participation or discharging of war crimes. If we do not withdraw all of our support, all of our funding to this belligerent occupation who was being prosecuted for war crimes, then we ourselves become complicit and we become a party to war crimes ourselves and can be held accountable. Now, this is all laid out in international law, and let's take this interesting point up with my colleague Jason. Jason, good evening. Thanks for coming along. Let's have a chat about this. Where is all this coming from, sir?
Well, I guess a lot of this comes from the conventions and the covenants that the Albanese government is a part of, or Australia in general, the politicians that signed this convention, the ICC International Rome Statute back in, I think, 92 or 95. And so basically they signed on to agree that they would not be an accessory or commit their citizens as accessory to a war crime and protect them. So basically, in doing this, they did agree to sign on and incorporate the International Criminal Court Rome Statute Act into their domestic law. So it is a part of domestic law in Australia under ICC Act, I think it's called. I think that came in about in the 90s. And so what this does is basically, it basically confines Australia to what it can achieve and what it cannot do under international law, and what it cannot do is become an aggressor in an international dispute. So what that means is, it may surprise a lot of people, but you can't just announce you're going to go to war or be an aggressor in a war. You have to stick to your international agreement to try and maintain peace and good order, and do everything possible to refrain from becoming an aggressor in any war. And after 1945, this was basically, they had a lot of Nuremberg trials, and they had a lot of meetings with the UN, and basically they hosted a lot of these big conventions, and got most countries, I think up to 192, to sign onto the general ICC or the Rome Statute Act. And basically this is to keep good order and peace generally in the world after the last two main wars, and to basically say, okay, now no one's going to be an aggressor into the next war. And so, of course, when you have these ongoing conflicts at the moment with Israel, Ukraine, etc., you've got to be very careful that you're not an aggressor, and you don't aid and abet or fund a war which is illegal, or is a dictator or a leader is engaged in genocide or war crimes.
So these laws, as they stand now, Jason, as it stands now in black and white, okay, we now have Anthony Albanese and his body politic named in war crimes and are being prosecuted. And under international law, it sets out clearly that we as a population cannot support them because of this in any way, shape or form, including financially. Correct or not?
Yes, they can't. They're not supposed to commit troops to an aggressive war. They're not supposed to use taxpayers or citizens' funds, right? Taxpayers and tax collectors in the Rome Statute basically deemed to be an accessory to war crime if it is an illegal war, if these leaders are sending. So basically, your tax dollars, they're going a portion of, if any portion of that is used to fund a war, an illegal war, and a war from the aggressive side, which Albanese and the leaders in Australia have decided to commit these funds through to the Department of Defence to fund these foreign wars, then basically that makes all taxpayers and tax collectors an accessory to the war crime. So we're implicated, and this is not good.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We need to be right across this, and the Freedom Union is. The Freedom Union is the only organisation here in Australia that is intimately aware and across all of these implications from these international laws and covenants that are in place. And you've got it there straight from the horse's mouth, that if we do not cease funding this belligerent occupation, and at least make attempts to do so and keep evidence that we've tried to do so, then we ourselves can be held accountable as accessories to war crimes. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, the Freedom Union, it's across all of this, the best international legal analysis anywhere in Australia. Jason, any last words?
No, I think basically if you want to withhold your tax, it's not really an option, it's a duty. The Rome Statute looks favourable on people that are basically in genuine fear and threat of their lives and go, geez, I don't want to be an accessory to war crime, so what can I do? They've set out a get out clause in the Rome Statute, I believe it's 23.5. And this sets out how you can basically cease doing trade with Albanese, cease setting up corporations under the Corporations Act 2001, and you can basically join the union, and this Freedom Union will protect your interests and your rights under contract law for the trade that you're about to re-engage or review with your employer. And any of these contracts are going to have to reflect that you're cease doing trade and sending a portion of your funds or your wage or your dollars to Department of Defence, who's obviously, you know, the Albanese government. And because they've decided to dedicate your funds to these ongoing conflicts, it makes you an accessory. So the Rome Statute have come up with that clause.
Mm. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Jason. I hope all of the Freedom Union members out there got something out of this upload, ladies and gentlemen. Stop paying tax. Stop paying any and all revenue. Our job in the Freedom Union is to help you do that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. John Wilson out.
This ad's out.